Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I used to think that most marriages ended with something explosive, an affair caught red-handed, screaming matches, somebody storming out with a suitcase. But now I know better. Sometimes it ends in silence, in the heavy pauses between words that used to mean something. Sometimes it ends with a look, or with a sentence so cold and final it freezes everything inside you. I didn't see the collapse coming, not at first. I was too busy doing what I thought was right. Providing. Supporting. Showing up. I worked long hours, but I never made her feel like second place. I'd skip happy hour with coworkers just to beat traffic and have dinner with her. I did the grocery runs, changed the oil, even learned how to make her mother's mushroom risotto because she said it reminded her of home. But over the last year, something changed. Maybe it had been changing longer than that, and I just refused to admit it. I started noticing how she never really looked up from her phone anymore when I came home. No, hey babe, or how was your day? Just a nod, maybe a short, hey, as she scrolled through whatever feed she was drowning in. She was always present physically, but emotionally? No. It was like she was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere I wasn't invited. At first, I blamed work. Hers or mine, didn't matter. Stress. The seasons. I gave her space, thinking she needed time, not confrontation. I still rubbed her back at night. Still remembered the anniversary of our first date. But the notes disappeared without a trace. The smiles, too. The moment that truly stuck out, the beginning of the end, happened on a random Wednesday. I had come home early, picked up takeout from that Thai place she liked. She was on the couch, in sweats, hair up in a messy bun, half watching TV. I sat beside her, handed her the food, and she barely muttered a thanks. We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then I asked if she wanted to plan something this weekend. Just us, I said. Dinner? Maybe a hike? I miss doing stuff with you. She didn't even pause. I'm busy. Busy with what? I said, trying to keep it light. You don't even know what day I'm talking about. She put the food down, turned to me, ice cold. I don't need to clear my schedule with you. This isn't a job interview. I blinked. I wasn't trying to. You're always trying to get something. Attention, affection, whatever. Like you're owed it just because you cooked or brought home food. I'm not here to fill your emotional checklist, Mark. That was the first time I felt something shift in me. Not hurt, not anger, just confusion. Like I was talking to a stranger using my wife's voice. I stayed quiet, choosing to walk it off, but the following week brought more of the same. I asked if she was okay. She said she was fine. I offered to plan a getaway, just a weekend. She called it a band-aid for deeper problems. And when I asked what those deeper problems were, she said I should already know. Like I had failed some invisible test, and she was just waiting for me to catch up. But I was tired of guessing. So one night, as we lay in bed, backs to each other, like we had been for months, I asked her, plainly, what do you want from me? She turned over slowly, propped herself on one elbow, and looked me dead in the eye. This is my body. My decision. It wasn't in response to a request for sex, or for anything really. It came out of nowhere, loaded, pointed, like she'd been waiting to say it. I didn't respond. Not because I was shocked by the words themselves, but because of the way she said them. She didn't just say it like a declaration of boundaries. She said it like a dare. That night I didn't touch her. I didn't roll over and hold her like I used to, even after fights. I stared at the ceiling, wide-eyed in the dark, wondering how the woman I married had vanished without a trace. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. Her perfume lingered in the bathroom like a ghost. And that's when I started noticing other things. A new gym bag by the door, one I hadn't seen before. Lingerie tags in the trash from a boutique we never shopped at together. Longer showers. More smiles at her phone. A locked screen where there never used to be one. She said she was going on walks to clear her head, but those walks started getting longer. Always around the same time. Always when I was supposed to be out or busy. I never imagined I'd be the guy snooping on his wife. But when your gut screams at you, you don't ignore it forever. So I waited until she left one evening and checked the screen time on her iPad. It synced to her messages. Most were innocent. Grocery lists. Appointment reminders. But some were from a name I didn't recognize. Just initials. Short ones. And more than one ended with. Can't wait. It's strange how quickly you adapt to silence. The kind that creeps into your mornings like fog, no more casual, have a good day, no warm glances over coffee. Just footsteps, the door closing, and the sound of your own breath. I used to think I'd go crazy if something ever felt this wrong in my marriage. But I didn't. I just got still. That weekend, I installed a GPS tracking app on her phone. I hated myself for doing it, hated the paranoia I'd become, but I couldn't go another day feeling like I was living with someone who had secrets tattooed on her skin. The data didn't lie. On Tuesday, she left work early, claimed she had a migraine. I watched the little blinking dot hover for a few minutes in the direction of a park near downtown. But then it moved 3 blocks east. Not to a yoga studio or her sister's place, like she'd told me. No, this address belonged to a townhouse. She stayed there for 2 hours. No shopping bags. No social media check-ins. Just off the grid. When she came home, she didn't mention a thing. I asked how she was feeling, and she smiled faintly, said the nap had helped. Then she kissed me on the cheek. That kiss was worse than a slap. It felt like a cover-up. Like she was sealing my mouth shut with affection so I wouldn't ask questions she didn't want to answer. I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I sat in the kitchen, staring at the countertop, listening to the occasional sound of her shifting upstairs. I thought about the years we'd spent building this life, our first apartment, cheap wine nights, long road trips. And I realized something brutal. I wasn't mourning the loss of my marriage. I was mourning the illusion that it still existed. A few nights later, I confronted her, not with accusations, just quiet observation. You've been gone a lot lately. She didn't look up from her phone. Work's been intense. Is that where you go when you leave early? Now she looked up. What are you trying to say, Mark? I'm not trying to say anything. I just noticed you've been near Adams Row twice this week. That's nowhere near your office. Her expression didn't flicker. Not a twitch. Then came the shift. You're tracking me? She asked flatly, almost impressed. She set her phone down slowly, and I could see her brain click into performance mode. You know what's funny? She said, standing up. You think I'm the problem? But you're the one trying to control me. That's not what this is. No, she snapped. You're monitoring my movements, asking where I go, policing where I spend my time. I'm not a prisoner in your house. I'm your husband, I said, voice low. Not a stranger watching you disappear one lie at a time. She didn't respond, just shook her head, grabbed her coat, and walked out. 2 days passed before she said more than a few words to me. She went through the motions: shower, sleep, work, but her energy was electric with distance. I saw it in how quickly she turned her phone face down when I walked by. I saw it in the way she looked at me like I was furniture, a necessary inconvenience in her curated reality. Then came the final drop that broke whatever was left of the surface tension. I got home early one Friday and noticed the calendar alert on the kitchen chalkboard had changed. A doctor's appointment, one I hadn't heard about. She came through the door a few hours later, relaxed, humming softly under her breath. What was the appointment for? I asked. She didn't answer at first. Does it matter? She said finally. It does if it concerns us. She looked at me like I was being naive. Mark, my body, my decision. Remember? I stared at her, searching for even a hint of remorse. She didn't flinch. You made a medical decision that affects us both, without saying a word. I don't need your permission to take care of myself, she said, and I could tell from the subtle defiance in her voice that she was almost proud. Proud that she'd pulled it off, that she had protected this little kingdom of privacy so fiercely. It was like she had crossed some imaginary finish line and thought she had won something. I didn't argue, because by then, I was already pulling away. That night, I opened her laptop when she went to shower. I knew her password. She hadn't changed it since our anniversary 4 years ago. The search history told me everything. 3 versions of How to Leave a Controlling Husband. A bookmarked blog post titled, You Don't Owe Him an Explanation. An Amazon order for travel-sized toiletries shipped to her office. And one email, recently deleted, but not gone. I found it in the trash folder. It was to someone named Brandon. I'm going to tell him soon. Just be patient. Once he's out of the picture, we'll be free to live the life we want. No more pretending. That's what she called the last year. The vacations. The nights I held her when she cried over her father's death. That's when the spiral stopped feeling like panic and started feeling like strategy. I wasn't going to lose sleep anymore. If there's one thing worse than being betrayed, it's realizing you were cast as the villain in someone else's story, long before you knew the script had even changed. After reading that email to Brandon, I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to be smarter than that. She was already a step ahead, emotionally checked out, rewriting history in her head. I could feel it in how she moved through the house like she didn't live here anymore. Like I was the stranger who overstayed his welcome. The first break came from someone I hadn't spoken to in months, her sister, Emily. Emily and I were never close, but she used to be warm toward me. She was practical, more grounded than her younger sister, and I always thought she had a protective streak. But somewhere along the way, the text messages stopped. Invitations dried up. She faded from our life the same way laughter had. But then she called. Out of nowhere. Just a casual, "Hey, how are you doing?" tone. "I don't want to get in the middle of anything," she said after a pause. "Then why are you calling?" "Because I think you deserve to know that none of this is happening by accident." That sentence lodged itself in my throat. What are you talking about? She's been planning this. For months. Maybe longer. My grip tightened on the phone. The affair. That, and everything else. The cold shoulder, the fights, even that stunt she pulled about her medical independence. She's been telling everyone you're manipulative. That you're emotionally unstable, jealous, always trying to control her. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. My silence said more than any outburst could have. She said if you ever tried to stop her from leaving, she'd paint you as abusive. She's got texts saved, out of context once. Enough to make you look like the problem. My stomach twisted. Emily continued. Softer now. She said if you pushed too hard, she'd file for a restraining order. That way, you'd look unhinged, and she could walk away clean. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Everything clicked. The sudden accusations, the way she spun everything around on me, the narrative that I was controlling. She was building a story, step by step, while I was still trying to save a marriage that had already been weaponized against me. And Brandon? I asked. Emily hesitated again. I've never met him, but he's been around for longer than you think. He used to comment on all her posts. They met at some gallery event months ago. Maybe longer. I closed my eyes. And you just decided to tell me now? I tried, she said quietly. She shut me out. Said I wasn't supportive. Said I was stuck in the past, clinging to old ideals about marriage. But watching her lie to everyone, gaslight you, erase you like you never mattered, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I should have felt grateful, but all I felt was tired, like the air had been punched out of my lungs. After the call, I went for a walk. No destination. Just sidewalks and lampposts and the sound of my shoes hitting the pavement. I couldn't even feel the cold. My mind was racing through conversations I'd replayed too many times, things she'd said that now made perfect sense. I'm not your project. You don't get to dictate how I live. You're making me feel unsafe. That last one hit the hardest. She said it during a quiet argument when I asked if she'd been seeing someone. She didn't raise her voice. Just looked at me with that blank, rehearsed expression and said, "You're scaring me." At the time, it gutted me. Made me question if I'd said something too forceful, too emotional. But now I knew it was planted. Deliberate. She was building a narrative where she was the brave survivor escaping an oppressive man. I was the faceless threat, no matter how gentle, how calm, how broken I really was. The final confirmation came a few days later. I got an alert from the home security system, motion detected in the living room while I was out. I checked the camera feed remotely. It was her. And Brandon. She didn't look like a woman breaking free from an abusive husband. She looked relaxed, confident. She poured wine while he slipped his shoes off like he lived there. Then she sat on the couch, my couch, and curled up beside him. Same spot we used to watch movies, legs tangled, her head on my shoulder. Except now her hand was on his chest, and they were laughing at something I couldn't hear. I watched the video for 12 minutes straight. Every second, a new layer of skin peeled off me. Not because of the betrayal that had already sunken in, but because of the ease. The ease with which she replaced me, erased me. And I realized then, this wasn't just infidelity. She tried to turn me into a caricature of everything she hated, so she could feel justified burning the bridge behind her. The first thing I did was stop playing my part in her story. No more asking where she was going or when she'd be home. I stopped initiating conversations. Stopped reminding her to pay the electric bill. Stopped leaving coffee for her in the morning. She didn't seem to notice at first. If she did, she mistook it for defeat. She started walking a little lighter around the house, like a woman who'd finally cast off the weight of a burden she thought I represented. She even began humming again, like some scene from a bad romantic comedy, completely unaware that the man across the table from her was no longer playing husband. I started with the financials. Locked down my accounts. Froze all unnecessary cards. Split the credit lines quietly and routed my paycheck into a new, private account she didn't know existed. Every expense of hers I'd been covering: cell phone, car insurance, streaming subscriptions. I removed myself from all of them, one by one. Not all at once. That would have tipped her off. Then I contacted a lawyer. A real one. I gave him everything. The GPS reports, the footage from the house, the email to Brandon, the texts, even the snapshots of her social media where she ranted about breaking free from a toxic household. I didn't ask him to destroy her. I asked him to make it clean, clinical. I wasn't going to claw my way out of this marriage. I was going to walk out the front door calm, composed, untouched. And when I left, I wasn't taking the chaos with me. I started recording our conversations. Nothing intrusive, just when we were alone, mostly in the kitchen or the car. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and thought it didn't matter. She was already writing me off, confident she held all the leverage. She even slipped up once. We were arguing, mildly, nothing out of hand, and I asked if she was planning to move in with Brandon. She gave me that smirk. The one that used to be playful but now just looked smug. You don't get to know what I do with my life. Not anymore. It's already been years too long. That part stung. But I kept the recorder running in my pocket and let her talk. She said a lot that night. About how she deserved more. That she'd checked out of this marriage a year ago, and that Brandon made her feel like a woman again. She even laughed when she talked about how easy it was to make me look like the unstable one. You always were too passive. That's what made it work. You wouldn't fight back. She had no idea how wrong she was. Later that week, I called her bluff. I left my laptop open, deliberately, on an email draft addressed to my lawyer. It mentioned filing, separating assets, dividing property. I even let the tab with the updated bank accounts sit in full view. She didn't say anything for 2 full days. I could feel her watching me more closely, trying to figure out if I had more than she realized. But I didn't give her anything. Then came the breaking point. One night, I came home early from work. She was there, alone this time, pouring herself a glass of wine and texting, phone angled carefully away from me. I walked past her, headed straight for the drawer near the TV, and pulled out a folder. Thick. Labeled. Tabbed. "What's that?" she asked, barely masking the tension. I laid it on the counter. A copy of everything I know. GPS logs. Bank withdrawals. Security footage. That email to Brandon. Your side conversations with Emily before you ghosted her. I've got screenshots. Metadata. Timestamps. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Tried again. You were spying on me? No, I said calmly. I was watching the woman I married disappear, and I wanted to understand where she went. That shut her up. She reached for the folder, but I pulled it back. It's already with the lawyer, I said. I just wanted you to see it. To understand that when this blows up, I'm not going to be the one scrambling. There was a flicker in her eyes, panic. Maybe, but it was buried under that same pride she'd been wearing like armor for months. You think this makes you strong? She said quietly. You think you're winning something? No, I said. I think I'm done letting you rewrite me. And then I walked away. I didn't slam the door. I left her standing in the kitchen with a glass of wine and the outline of her own lies printed in 12-point font on high-grade paper. She still thought I'd crumble. But the truth is, I'd already left her. Now I was just making it official. The day I left was sunny. I thought that mattered somehow. I always assumed if my marriage ended, the skies would weep or something poetic like that. But no, the weather didn't care. The sun hit the driveway the same way it always did. The breeze ran through the trees like it had 100 mornings before. Everything felt ordinary. And maybe that was the point. The extraordinary thing wasn't the leaving. It was how long I stayed after I should have been gone. I'd already given the lawyer the green light. My accounts were fully separated. The house title was being negotiated. I hadn't spoken to her in days, just the basics, and only when necessary. She acted like nothing was happening, as if silence would somehow reverse the trajectory. But I think, deep down, she knew what was coming. She just didn't think it would be so calm. That morning, I didn't pack everything. I took what mattered, important documents, some clothes, a few family heirlooms. The rest I left behind. It felt symbolic. She could keep the furniture, the wine glasses, the kitchen she never used. All the things she wrapped herself in to pretend we still had something. I left a simple note on the kitchen counter. You're right. It is your body. And now it's your life. You can live both, without me. The lawyer sent her the formal divorce papers the next day, served to her office, just after lunch. According to a friend who worked in the same building, she cried in the conference room bathroom for 20 minutes, then came out like nothing happened, smiling, laughing at some intern's joke. But what she didn't know was that I'd also sent a few select pieces of information to the right people quietly. Her employer received a copy of the video showing Brandon in our house on company time. Turns out, he was a contractor for the same firm. Conflict of interest. Fired. His wife, yes, he was married, got the same folder. I never met her. Didn't want to. But I heard through the grapevine that she kicked him out the next day. Took the kids. Changed the locks. Emily? She told their parents everything. They were furious. Not because she cheated, but because she lied. Because she tried to flip the blame. Because she dragged our name through the mud and expected everyone to clap. Her little support circle, the ones who cheered her on with "do what's best for you," and "you don't owe him anything?" Gone. Most of them disappeared when the full story came out. The rest backed away slowly once they realized she was more manipulator than martyr. And Brandon? He ghosted her. Stopped showing up to their meetups. She tried to find him once, emailed him from her work account. He never responded. Suddenly, her independence wasn't as glamorous as she'd imagined. She called me once. A week after the papers hit. She sent a message. "Can we talk? Please. Just talk." I left it on read. Another one came a few days later. "I made a mistake. I was confused. You didn't deserve what I did." The last message came late at night, 2 weeks later. "I thought you'd at least fight for me. For us." That one made me laugh. Because I had fought. Just not in the way she expected. She wanted yelling, begging. She wanted a man on his knees so she could say, "See? He was never strong." But that's where she was wrong. Strength wasn't staying and groveling for a version of love that had been hollowed out. Strength was knowing when to let the floor fall out and walk away before it took you with it. Now I sleep easy. I come home to a quiet apartment where every item is exactly where I left it. I eat what I want. Listen to the music she used to roll her eyes at. Go to bed without that ever-present weight on my chest. I breathe again. Not bitterly. Not with rage. Just clearly. And some nights, when I catch myself remembering the way things were, when I question if I could have saved it, I remind myself of that sentence. The one she used like a weapon. This is my body. My decision. And she gets to live with hers. Alone.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.